Hello, my name is Mark Van Gelder. I'm with subvertgov.com. I wanted to share with you an email that a coworker of mine, I'm not going to say who, but a coworker of mine just shared with me. This is a guy that I would not have expected to get this message from, but it's very poignant. There are some points which I disagree with it, but on the whole, it's actually a pretty good email. So this is uh, an article that was written by Dean Garrison. Per his Wikipedia entry, it says Dean Garrison, born 1955, is a contemporary American author and crime fiction novelist. He was born in Michigan, grew up in Indiana, Illinois, and Texas, and received his BA degree from Ferris State University in Big Rapids, Michigan. Garrison is a crime scene technician in West Michigan. His research in the fields of crime scene investigation and shooting reconstruction are widely published in forensic journals under the name D.H. Garrison, Jr. The article is called, "If They Come for Your Guns, Do You Have a Responsibility to Fight?" Here it goes. He says, "I feel a tremendous responsibility to write this article, though I am a little apprehensive. Thinking about the possibility of rising up against our own government is a frightening thing for many of us. I am not Johnny Rambo, and I will be the first to admit that I do not want to die. The reason I feel compelled to write this, however, is simply because I don't think the average American is equipped with the facts. I feel that a lot of American citizens feel like they have no choice but to surrender their guns if the government comes for them. I blame traditional media sources for this mass brainwash, and I carry the responsibility of all small, independent bloggers to tell you the truth. So my focus today is to lay out your constitutional rights as an American and let you decide what to do with those rights. About a month ago, I let the democracy word slip in a discussion with a fellow blogger. I know better. Americans have been conditioned to use this term. It is not an accurate term, and it has never been a correct term to describe our form of government. The truth is that the United States of America is a constitutional republic. This is similar to democracy because our representatives are selected by democratic elections. But ultimately, our representatives are required to work within the framework of our Constitution. In other words, even if 90% of Americans want something that goes against our founding principles, they have no right to call for a violation of constitutional rights. If you are religious, you might choose to think of it this way. Say that members of your congregation decide that mass fornication is a good thing. Do they have the right to change the teachings of your God? The truth is the truth. It doesn't matter how many people try to stray from it. Did I just compare our founders to God? In a way, I did. But please note that I am not trying to insult anyone. For the purpose of the American government, our Constitution and founders who wrote it are much like God is to believers. It is the law. It is indisputable. Our founders did not want a democracy, for they feared a true democracy was just as dangerous as a monarchy. The founders were highly educated people who were experienced in defending themselves against tyranny. They understood that the Constitution could protect the people by limiting the power of anyone to work outside of it, much better than a pure system of popularity. A system of checks and balances was set up to help limit corruption of government and also the potential for an immoral majority developing within the American people. We have forgotten in this country that we are ultimately ruled by a constitution. Why is a democracy potentially just as dangerous as a monarchy? Let's look at something that Benjamin Franklin said because it answers that question more fully and succinctly than I can. Benjamin Franklin said, "Democracy is two wolves and a lamb just voting on what to have for lunch. Liberty is a well-armed lamb contesting the vote." Even 230 plus years ago, our founders were perceptive enough to realize that democracy was a dangerous form of government. How so? Because the citizens of the country can become just as corrupt as any government. We have seen evidence of this throughout history. Ask Native Americans and African Americans if this population can become corrupt. I think in 2012 we are seeing evidence of what Franklin was trying to tell us. Just because a majority of people support certain ideas, it does not mean that those ideas are just. In simple terms, just because most Americans love our president and voted for him, it does not mean that he has the power to go against our constitutional rights. Next, I'd like to review the text of the Second Amendment. It is very clear. This is the law of the land. So when Senator Feinstein or President Obama talk about taking your guns, you need to think about something. Are they honoring their sworn oath to uphold the Constitution? The Second Amendment says, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed." This is a pretty clear statement. The fact is that it took 232 years for the Supreme Court to even rule on this amendment because it has never been successfully challenged. In 2008, a case of Columbia versus Heller, the Supreme Court ruled that a handgun ban in Washington, D.C. was unconstitutional. One also has to take this into consideration. The Supreme Court supports your right to own guns. If you want to research this decision further, you can start here. It's got a little link. But it's just a printout, so I don't have the link in front of me. For those who try to debate the spirit of the Second Amendment, they are truly no different from people who would try to take biblical quotes out of context to try to support their immoral decisions. The founders were very clear on the intent of the Second Amendment. Let me share a few quick quotes here. Thomas Jefferson said, "The strongest reason for people to retain the right to keep and bear arms is, as a last resort, to protect themselves against tyranny and government." Firearms stand next in importance to the Constitution itself. They are the American people's liberty, teeth, and keystone under independence. From the hour the Pilgrims landed to the present day, events, occurrences, and tendencies prove that to ensure peace, security, and happiness, the rifle and pistol are equally indispensable. The very atmosphere of firearms everywhere restrains evil interference. They deserve a place of honor with all that is good. That's from George Washington. Samuel Adams says, "The Constitution shall never be construed to prevent the people of the United States who are peaceable citizens from keeping their own arms." I can find hundreds of quotes like these. The country was built on the right to bear arms. It was built on the rights of an individual to bear arms, regardless of what the government or neighbor happened to think. This is crystal clear. Ironically, the people who voice their opinions against this right have their free speech protected by your guns. Without guns in this country, all other amendments become null and void simply because we, the people, will lose our power of enforcement. We need to keep this in mind as our representatives try to push gun bans. I don't care if 99% of the people are in support of gun bans, which is far from the case. It is simply a violation of our constitutional rights, plain and simple. A constitutional republic protects the rights of the individual, even when their ideas are very much in the minority. If I were the only person in America who believed in the Second Amendment, I would still be within my rights to call upon it. You would all think I was insane and possibly celebrate if I was gunned down, but in the end, I would be the only true American among us. Our framers were very clear on this. If my government comes to take my guns, they are violating one of my constitutional rights that is covered by the Second Amendment. This part is bolded and colored. It is not my right at that point, but my responsibility to respond in the name of liberty. What I am telling you is something that many are trying to soft sell, and many others have tried to avoid putting into print, but I am going to say it. The time for speaking in code is over. If they come for our guns, then it is our constitutional right to put them 6 feet under. You have the right to kill any representative of this government who tries to tread on your liberty. I am thinking about self-defense, and I am not talking about inciting a revolution. Reread Jefferson's quote. He talks about a last resort. I am not trying to start a revolt. I am talking about self-defense. If the day for revolution comes, when no peaceful options exist, we may have to talk about that as well. None of us wants to think about that, but please understand that a majority cannot take away your rights as an American citizen. Only you can choose to give up your rights. Congress could pass gun ban legislation by a 90% plus margin, and it just would not matter. I think some people are very unclear on this. This is the reason we have a Supreme Court, and though I do not doubt that the Supreme Court can also become corrupt, in 2008 when they got it right, they got it right. They supported the Constitution. It does not matter what the majority supports because America is not a democracy. The constitutional republic protects the rights of every single citizen, no matter what their elected servants say. A majority in America only matters when the Constitution is not in play. I just wrote what every believer in the Constitution wants to say and what every constitutional blogger needs to write. The truth of the matter is that this type of speech is viewed as dangerous and radical or subversive, and it could gain me a world of trouble that I do not want. It is also the truth. To make myself clear, I will tell you again. If they come for your guns, it is your right to use those guns against them and to kill them. You are protected by our Constitution. Most of the articles I am reading on the subject are trying to give you clues without just coming out and saying it. I understand that because certain things in this country will get you on a list that you don't want to be on. I may well be on that list. This blog is small and growing, so I may not be there yet. But I have dreams. I also have my own list of subversives, and anyone who attempts to deny my constitutional rights is on that list. I am not the subversive here. It is the political representatives who are threatening to take away my inalienable rights. If they come to take my guns, and I leave a few of them wounded or dead, and I somehow survive, I have zero doubt that I will spend a long time in prison and may face an execution. But I would rather be a political prisoner than a slave. If I go down fighting, then I was not fighting to harm these human beings. I was simply defending my liberty and yours. It is self-defense, and it is what our country was built on. We won our freedom in self-defense. We will not be ruled by a tyrannical government in the 1770s, and we will not be ruled in 2012 by a tyrannical government. There is no difference. This is a case of right and wrong. As of now, the Second Amendment stands. It has never been repealed. If Feinstein or Barak have a problem with the Constitution, then they should be removed from office. They are not defending the Constitution which they have sworn an oath to protect. It is treasonous, to say the least. They would likely say the same about me. But I have the Constitution, the founders, and the Supreme Court on my side. They only have their inflated egos. I am not writing this to incite people. I am writing this in hopes that somehow I can make a tiny difference. I have no idea how many of my neighbors have the will to defend their constitutional rights. 2%? 20%? I'm afraid that 20% is a high number, unfortunately. When push comes to shove, many people may give up and submit to being ruled. I believe that our government is banking on this. What I do know is that this country was founded by people who had balls the size of Texas, and patriotic Americans take shit off nobody, especially our own government. For evidence of that, you might research the Revolutionary War. My question is, how many patriots are left? I would hope that our officials come to realize that, regardless of our numbers, we still exist, and because they are calling patriotic Americans to action. They are making us decide if we want to die free or submit to their rule. I cannot tell you where you should stand on that. I do know that it may make a difference between living a life of freedom or slavery. You must start thinking about this because I believe that the day is coming soon, and I personally believe it has already been planned. Not all conspiracy theories are hogwash. They may throw down the gauntlet soon, and my suggestion is that you prepare yourself to react. I mean no disrespect to our elected officials, but they need to understand that we the people will not be disarmed. If they proceed, then it is they that are provoking us, and we will act accordingly. We are within our rights to. So, well stated. For somebody who believes in the Constitution and the Republic, and a Republican form of government, I'd say that this is actually a really good article. As an anarchist, I don't believe in Republican government. I believe in self-ownership. I believe that nobody has that even republics themselves are by definition a democracy of a minority. Like it's a small number of people that get to act like a democracy. And he's right though about the constitutional republic, that the elected representatives are bound by their oaths to defend the Constitution, not the country. So I would say, long story short, good article. I really would like to get to know this guy and maybe communicate with him. I think that he is somebody that's worth saving. So good luck, Dean Garrison. I appreciated everything that you had to say. Yeah, it's the truth though. Like, I mean, this guy flat out came out and said, "Listen, if they come for your guns, it's the patriotic thing to do to not turn them in and instead to fight back." And it's the truth. I mean, if you have a government that's basically subverting their own constitution, then you have almost a responsibility to fight back. Of course, I come from a position that government inherently will find loopholes around it. And they may even do this and make an argument saying, well, we're not restricting your right to bear arms because we're still letting you have pistols, right? That's still being able to defend yourself. Or, they say, well, if we still let you have knives, that's technically a form of arms, so we can ban all guns because knives are still allowed. And then, well, we'll let you have sticks because because sticks, you can defend yourself with sticks. It's like, long story short, I hate using the Second Amendment to defend gun rights because I believe in natural rights. But as far as statist positions, this is really well written. Thanks a lot, Dean. I appreciated it. And thanks to my coworker who shared this with me. He was like, "Have you seen this article?" And I was like, "No, I've never heard of this guy." And he printed it out for me, and I was, impressed, to say the least. Considering that this guy, my coworker, is not the kind of guy I would expect to ever have anything to say along those lines. I was talking with him earlier, and I was talking about another one of my coworkers who I don't really work with, but I've been with him I've done a little bit of work with him. We kind of know each other from when we were both in the Navy. We were on the same ship. He was my LPO when I first got to the ship, so he didn't really know me in the Navy because he was just leaving as I was getting there. But we happened to find out that we both worked on the same ship. We both worked on the same ship in the same department. He was actually my LPO for a few weeks, and then he left. But we've kind of gotten together, and this guy's a really hardcore Republican, and he said something a few weeks ago that was really, I originally argued against him from like a liberal standpoint, because at that time I was still pretty liberal leaning, and he would disagree with me on everything, and argue against me. Then I really became radicalized as an anarchist, and he said, then we have arguments about the nature of government. And he would still argue, saying that, well, the United States is the best country we have, and it would be foolish just to give it up. And then a few weeks ago, he said, as more and more time passes, I'm coming closer and closer to your position. So that's, and in all my Facebook correspondence with him since then, he is really coming around. He realizes now, with the gun control issue, that the government does what it wants to do. I mean, the Constitution's a good idea if you can keep it, but the nature of government is to find loopholes. The nature of government is to find a way around the rights that they've, the privileges that they've carved out for you. So that's, long story short, I think I may have another anarchist on my hands. So, yay team. Anyway, I gotta get going, but I appreciated this discussion. If you guys have any questions, put it in the comments, and I'll respond back if I ever see them. All right, thanks. Bye.